Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Tuesday, December 16th. I normally bring Arkansas news every day, but the news in Arkansas is slow today, and it seems strange to start with local news when world events are so much larger. The slaughter of more than 130 school children in Pakistan by Taliban terrorists who say they were acting in the name of God certainly leads everybody's list of concerns today. Closer to home, Jeb Bush says he's going to form an exploratory committee to decide whether or not to run for president. I can't remember any major candidate who did any exploring that ended up with any decision, but an affirmative decision. I think Jeb Bush will be in the race. Perhaps we'll see another Bush versus Clinton race in 2016. At the state capitol, a lot of news has been made this week by the Legislative Audit Committee. It's a respected operation that operates in a nonpartisan and detailed manner to oversee the bookkeeping of various state agencies. This week it found, for example, a high-ranking $130,000 a year administrator at Arkansas State University, Lonnie Williams, had given out $30,000 in improper student housing discounts over the last few years. He was caught. He's going to have to pay it back at the huge sum of $108 every 2 weeks. In 12 years, he may pay back the money he took from his school. I hope you get such similar treatment if you cost your employer that much money. Carroll County was on the hot seat in a political squabble. Brian King put them there because he's not happy with how well the circuit clerk is doing in keeping judges informed of people who aren't paying their fines in circuit courts. In fact, this is a problem everywhere in the state. You can assess fines, but if people don't have the money to pay it, it's hard to throw them in prison to make them pay money they don't have. Also, there was a little finding that the Fair Housing Commission had paid $1,500 to the Democratic Black Caucus. They say it was for advertising, and so thus was not a political contribution, which would be illegal. It smells a lot like politics, but there's a lot of politics going on in audit. I wish the auditors, which is a committee currently controlled Republicans, would also take a look at the $150,000 or so that was spent for no work at all by 6 members of Mark Darr's staff, or for 6 months of Mark Darr's staff after he left office in disgrace. Among the people who got paid for doing nothing was somebody who was working during that period of time to help Asa Hutchinson campaign for governor, and he was the guy, Bruce Campbell, who passed along the bogus expense reimbursements that got Mark Darr in trouble in the first place. In other news, the shakeup continues, and it's not at all a surprise that Asa Hutchinson is moving to let people in the Beebe administration know that he's going to put his own people in at state agencies. The latest news is that Heath Absher will not be kept on as a securities commissioner. Not too surprising. The Stevens people didn't like him very much. Martha Miller is not going to stay on at the Heritage Department. This might raise a question about a somewhat controversial building project that she's championed for a new headquarters building for the agency down on the Arkansas River. There are more to come, I'm sure. As of yet, there's only been one department head who Asa Hutchinson said he'd like to stay on. That's Shane Broadway at Higher Education. But I think he said that knowing that the fix is in for Shane Broadway to be hired as the next lobbyist at Arkansas State University. So it was easy for him to appear magnanimous knowing that was going to happen. Nominally, there's a search process underway, but I think it's just a formality. There's sort of historic news at the Little Rock Airport. Central Flying Service, the state's oldest flight operator, is going to sell a great portion of its business to TAC Air, a Truman Arnold company. They're going to become the monopoly fixed-based operator and supplier of fueling services at the airport. A good deal for TAC Air. There's some suggestion in the agreement that was put before the Airport Commission this morning that some current legal troubles Central Flying has might be having it getting its assets in order. It faces a lawsuit over some deaths of passengers in a charter plane flight. Of airport news of more interest to travelers, the airport director, Ron Matthews, said yesterday that American Airlines is going to end its nonstop flight to New York City in March. It flies every morning. We can't sustain that amount of business to the nation's leading city, which probably says a little something about commerce in Little Rock that we can't sustain a single flight to New York. Speaking of Arkansas State University, bad news for it this week. It lost its first attempt to get approval to establish an osteopathic medical school before the accrediting agency. What was revealed in that news was that there's something of a split in that community in Arkansas. The Osteopathic Medical Association had some unflattering things to say about Arkansas State University. They're backing a new osteopathic school in Fort Smith. I've wondered all along whether we need 3 med schools in Arkansas, much less 2. UAMS has a conventional medical school and has some doubts about whether residency is sufficient to train all the people that will be produced by these new medical schools. Finally, the local Twitter sphere is just abuzz with news that The big Swedish retailer IKEA is going to open a store in Germantown in 2016. Having tried to make some IKEA furniture myself, it doesn't excite me very much, but it's 2.5 hours closer than Dallas. If that floats your boat, there's going to be a lot of cheap Swedish meatballs over in Memphis come the fall of 2016. I recommend instead stay home, watch Lilyhammer, Steve Van Zandt's Norwegian set comedy series on Netflix, which is a lot more entertaining and a lot cheaper. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.